Hey, what's happening, everybody in the XRP community? Welcome back to Investment Perspectives. I wanted to do a video today and talk about a few things that we've certainly dealt with as a theme before in other videos that we've had, but I want to just continue that today with just some of the things that I'm seeing here. So the theme for this video today is I guess, we've talked about this before, but, will the U.S. dollar lose its global reserve status? And will it lose it to digital currency and specifically XRP? I know that this is something we've talked about on here before, but there's an ugly truth about all of this, and it isn't just you and I having this conversation back and forth. A couple weeks ago, I brought an article forward, and it was from the New York Times. Now, I've seen many lower tier, specifically in the crypto space, articles that discuss that notion, and it's not uncommon to see that in the crypto space, right? A couple weeks ago, like I said, we had the article in the New York Times that brought up the issue, which was really an everyday publication talking to the everyday masses about the notion of the U.S. dollar losing its global reserve status. Well, we're going to talk about that again today. But before we do, I wanted to talk about an exchange, Bitwise. Bitwise files to list Bitcoin ETF on the New York Stock Exchange ARCA, right? So when I get into this, I want to look at, and again, some of what we do here on the channel isn't just speculation, but if we get into this, we know that ultimately cryptocurrencies, XRP, is all coming and being rolled into the traditional markets. And with that is going to come some terminologies, some words, processes, things like that I think we should try to do whatever we can to educate ourselves on that stuff. So I want to run through some of this, what they're doing, and so we can see what's taking place, because even though we're waiting for legislation and regulation and those things, we still see the ball going forward from all the big players who are rolling out platforms or just institutional money in general, are all still putting themselves in a position because they know that this space is going to continue to grow and it is going to roll out and become a part of the traditional markets, and everybody is definitely making those moves to make that happen. So crypto asset manager Bitwise filed a form with the Securities and Exchange Commission to list its physically held Bitcoin ETFs on a New York Stock Exchange ARCA, the company announced Thursday. Bitcoin ETF has been a long-awaited darling of the cryptocurrency world and a derivative some think could propel the market out of the doldrums into the bullish territory. Still, the SEC has pushed back on all Bitcoin ETF applications thus far, citing concerns of manipulation in the underlying spot market. So now we know in the spot market would be your day trading. So they're concerned about the long-term ETF versus the daily, right? Okay, so Bitwise says its products will be based on an index that draws data from a large trustworthy exchanges. It also holds Bitcoin for the products with a regulated custodian, the firm said. The firm says that those qualifications would address the concerns regulators have about other proposals. So the SEC is asked thoughtful, they go on to say this, the SEC has asked thoughtful and relevant questions about the quality of crypto trading ecosystem, the reliability of crypto pricing, the strength of the arbitrage function in crypto, and the robustness of crypto custody. So they've spent years researching these questions and look forward to discussing these findings with the SEC staff in connection with the filing and listing application. Okay, so now we also know that it goes on to say here, elsewhere in the market, Gemini's Winklevoss twins confirmed their commitment to getting a Bitcoin ETF off the ground, which still hasn't happened as of yet. The twins, who tried to get a fund tracking Bitcoin approved in 2017, said they are committed as ever to making an ETF a reality. And according also to Cointelegraph report, if you remember, no more than a week ago, I guess it was, Japan regulators are looking into approving the potential ETF as well. So that is promising. Oh, and in Switzerland, traders went wild with an ETN product trading cryptocurrencies product tracking cryptocurrency markets. So let me say that again. In Switzerland, traders went wild for an ETN product tracking cryptocurrency markets. So now let's talk about that for a second. One, they mentioned ETFs. Two, they mentioned ETNs, right? So if you don't know what those are, an ETF is exchange traded funds. An ETN is exchange traded notes. Now let's just talk about the distinguishing difference between those two things. And before we do, real quick, let's stay with this. Let's stay with this, and then we'll make a point about that article right there. So, okay, so now let's look at this for a second. So exchange traded funds are like the hottest thing since the mutual fund. In fact, the investment product is on track to replace the mutual funds with its often lower fee structure and easier to understand stock-like price action. ETFs have a not so well-known cousin. The exchange-traded note, the ETN, is something that many retail investors may not know about. So, how are they different? In practice, the two are very similar. Both are designed to track an underlying asset, which would be Bitcoin or XRP, whatever it would be, right? So both often have lower expense ratios than actively managed mutual funds, and both trade on major exchanges just like stock. The main difference is under the hood. When you invest in an ETF, you are investing into a fund that holds the asset it tracks. The asset may be stocks, bonds, gold, or other commodities like we were talking about, or futures contracts. An ETN is more like a bond. It's an unsecured debt note issued by an institution. Just like with a bond, an ETN can be held to maturity, bought or sold at will, and if the underwriter, usually a bank, were to go bankrupt, the investor would risk total default. So there's your differences right there, right? Okay, so now let's talk about the article in general, just a Bitwise files to list a Bitcoin ETF. Now, I know there's been a lot of people file for ETFs. This company, Bitwise, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, is based out of San Francisco. So I'm not saying that they will get it. I'm just saying this shows you what the people with money are doing. They're gearing up. Whether there's legislation passed or submitted at this point or not, whether the U.S. is looking to get a signal from the EU or the EU is looking to get a signal from the SEC or the CFTC, what's relevant here is that everyone is remaining the course and they are positioning themselves for a market that they know eventually is going to get the ribbon cutting, and this is going to take place. So very, very positive news, whether it's proved or not. Everybody with the money is putting their money and effort into making this market come to light. So, all right, let's move forward here. So now, I was looking at Market Watch today. Wow. The Bank of England's governor, Mark Carney, I believe is his name. And let me get it right here. Yes, Bank of England Governor Mark Carney sees the U.S. dollar eventually losing its reserve currency status. Now, you know what? It's one thing when you hear Brad on Investment Perspectives ask the question. It's quite another when you start hearing, the IMF maybe give the rumbling of possible reserve status changing, adopting digital tokens. You start hearing the New York Times put out articles talking about the global reserve status of the U.S. dollar being lost. And now you have here, and I want to dive into this article. So I want you to understand real quick here. So let's go into this. The U.S. dollar remains the world's reserve currency for now. However, a number of central banks lately are contemplating a world in which the almighty buck isn't the preeminent global medium of exchange. I wonder what they could be considering using. On Wednesday, Bank of England Governor Mark Carney underlined that view, saying, ultimately, we will have reserve currencies other than the U.S. dollar. There it is right there. and we've talked about this before here too, and it isn't put a flag on the moon. It's just to say, there it is right there. That's the most practical way to see it happen. It won't just be taken down, right? Something else will sit beside it, or something other, many other somethings will sit beside it. So that seems pretty accurate to me, and obviously he knows a lot more about this than either one of us, right? So, okay. And I think it's likely that, and Mark Carney says, I think it's likely that we will ultimately have reserve currencies other than the U.S. dollar. All right, so his comments emerged during a question and answer where the Canadian-born UK central banker said the evolution of global financial system is currently lagging behind the global economy, explaining that, for example, emerging markets economies share of global activity is now 60%, but their share of global financial assets lags behind at around 1/3. So there you see it. I mean, there's major motivation there to get this up and moving and to get everything connected, because you see that they're identifying the pain point between the amount of global infrastructure that needs to be put in place, whether it's through more framework to cover fragmentation, or whether it's to cover fragmentation on a legislative and regulation side. They see the disconnect and they want it fixed, right? So, okay, so yeah, as the world reorders, this is Mark Carney again, as the world reorders, the disconnect between the real and financial is likely to reduce, and in the process, other reserve currencies may emerge. So, look, I mean, they're not saying XRP, obviously, but you know what? For me, guys, I mean, this is bullish news. And this stuff's a little bittersweet, right? When you think about the notion of how many people don't know about XRP, right? Or even cryptocurrencies in general, and that this is taking place. This wave is really coming into play, and it's taking place. And it's bittersweet to think a lot of people out here are going to take a real hit in the stock market, pension world, and those things when we see such a massive thing building here. And then obviously, when they talk about the U.S. dollar domestically here in the States, having its reserve currency challenged or lost altogether, there are major implications here. And the overall theme here, is, I've said it before and I'll say it again, people talk about, they're never going to use XRP, they're never going to, yeah, they are. And you know why? Because these articles say so, because they're telling you there's a global crisis. It's tied to the U.S. dollar, and that ties it to the globe. Guys, I'm going to wrap it up right there. Thank you for watching. We're well over 3,000 subs. Let's keep this thing going. It's incredible what we're doing on here together. We're just getting started, and so is this market, and so is XRP. We're way early to the game. Let's keep a positive light. Let's lift everybody up when you see somebody down, because we're too close to them really firing off the shot that really begins the real race, and that's when the real big players come into this game. All right, guys, hit the like and subscribe. Leave some comments. I'll catch you on the next one. All right, bye.